Welcome to the EROS User Experience webinar series, where we talk to staff at EROS to learn more about the data, tools, and services coming out of the USGS Earth Resources Observation and Science, or EROS Center. Today's webinar, the new and improved bulk download web application, is on the BDWA. I'm your host, Danielle Golan, the Remote Sensing User Services Lead here at EROS in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The time is currently 12:03 Central Daylight Time, so let's go ahead and get started. First, a few logistics. To ensure the best audio experience, all participants have been muted. If you have any questions during the webinar, please enter them into the chat and we'll address those questions at the end of the webinar. Today's webinar is being recorded. The recording will be available on the USGS EROS website and the USGS YouTube channel a few days after the webinar. At the start and end of the webinar, we will have a few polling questions. These polls are optional, but your answers will help us create a better user experience in the future. You should be able to see the first set of polling questions in the chat now. Please feel free to respond to those. Today's webinar will consist of a presentation and a demonstration of the tool, followed up by a question and answer session. During today's webinar, we will have one speaker. Our speaker is Abby Miller from the USGS EROS User Services team. Abby will begin today's webinar with talking about the BDWA tool, and then we'll provide a demonstration of accessing data through Earth Explorer and then downloading the data using the BDWA. Once she has finished her presentation, we will transition over to an optional set of final polling questions, and then we will move to the Q&A portion of the webinar. We have several user services staff members and software system engineers on the line to help answer any questions you may have. Please feel free to add your questions or feedback throughout the webinar using the webinar chat, and we will answer them at the end of the webinar. We'll try to answer all of your questions within the time allotted, but if we're not able to address the question during the Q&A portion, we'll follow up with you offline. If there's a future webinar topic you would like us to cover, please feel free to suggest that in the chat as well. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Abby Miller. Take it away, Abby.
Thank you for that introduction. So today we'll be talking about the new and improved bulk download web application, or the BDWA. We'll do a quick outline of today's webinar. We'll first go over how to access data at EROS. We'll talk about what the BDWA is, some improvements that have been made to the BDWA, how to use it. We'll do some FAQs and some tips. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with giving you some contact information if you have any questions that pop up after the fact, after the webinar, and it's just good info to have on hand. So first, we'll talk about EROS. The USGS Earth Resource Observation and Science Center contains the largest civilian collection of images of the Earth's land surface in existence, including tens of millions of satellite images. The majority of this data is available to the general public at no charge, and we offer a variety of methods to visualize and download this data. How to access data from EROS. So we'll go over some of these applications and tools we have. First, we have Landsat Look. This is a great tool if you want to visualize the data, see what you're getting without the need to download. We have Earth Explorer, which we'll be working with a lot today. This is also our most popular option, and we use that to search and browse and download data from the USGS archives. Next, we have GLOVIS, or the Global Visualization Viewer, a tool for visualizing and accessing remote sensing data. We have our machine-to-machine. This is a more advanced scripting tool with repetitive queries when you're downloading lots of data. As mentioned, this is a more advanced tool that we have. And then we have our bulk download web application, which is what we'll be talking about today. And this is a great way to streamline downloading large amounts of scenes. So what is the bulk download web application? The BDWA is a tool for downloading large quantities of satellite imagery and other geospatial data. The BDWA can be used for data on the USGS's Earth Explorer, Hazards Data and Distribution System, or HDDS, and the GLOVIS user interfaces. The user must be logged in to download individual scenes or place a bulk download request. Is the bulk download web application for you? If you're a user that finds yourself downloading a lot of data at once, you see yourself downloading data over several different areas, you would like when you download that they're easily accessible in a compressed zip file for each download, and you don't necessarily have advanced scripting knowledge, the bulk download web application might be the tool for you. And with that, we'll go over some improvements that have been made. So with the bulk download web application, you may find it more user-friendly than the previous generation. You'll see that it works seamlessly with many USGS tools, as we mentioned before, and you'll see that you have even larger download requests than the previous generation. As we continue on to the improvements, this new application is web-based and is currently supported on Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge. This is a great tool because it works directly in your browser. So there's no need to download the application initially, and there's no need to check up on updates or anything like that. As long as you have it in your browser, go ahead and search it up, and there's no extra finessing. So we'll go over our first quick tutorial. First, to access Earth Explorer, the BDWA, and any other USGS tools, you'll need an ERS account. So we'll just kind of click through what that might look like for you. As you can see, there's some username requirements, some password requirements. Once you meet those needs, go ahead and hit continue. We collect demographic information. This application is free, but this is just a way for us to see who's using it and for what kind of data and uses. So once you fill that out, it'll take you to the next contact page information. So once you fill that out, go ahead and save contact information. It'll give you this preview. You have the chance to edit it if you made any mistakes. And when you're ready, go ahead and submit registration. You'll get your registration submitted, and you'll also have to check your email and confirm your account before you log in. As you can see on the right-hand side, it will tell you to log in. You can view data on Earth Explorer without logging in. You will not be able to download it or put in a bulk request. So when you're ready to log in, you can put in your ERS information, and you will see when you're logged in on that same side, it will actually have your username and the log out button instead of the log in. So for today, in this first tutorial, we're going to be downloading data over Sioux Falls, as that is where EROS is located. There's many ways to search up data and locations. If you know your path row for the scene, go ahead and put that in if that's how you'd like to search. For today, we're going to just type in Sioux Falls. You can also search from a polygon, circle, or predefined area on the map. But we'll just be doing an address and selecting that. You can also toggle your date range. This will just show up or only pull results for scenes and data taken within a certain time frame. So we'll go ahead and for our search, put in our date range. And you can also toggle which months you would like to see data from. You also have the option to toggle how much or how little cloud cover you'd like in your scenes, and toggle your results per page. So when you're ready, we'll select some data sets. If you know what you're looking for, you're welcome to use the dataset search or open the drop-down menu. Today, for our bulk order, we'll be adding a NAPE aerial image, and we're going to get some Landsat data as well. We'll be using Collection 2, Level 1, Landsat 8 and 9. You can go ahead and click through once you read that message if you're downloading Landsat data. And if you'd like, go to Additional Criteria. So first it'll pull up NAPE. Depending on the data set that you're downloading from, this additional criteria will vary. This is aerial imagery, and this is just options to make sure you can get the most refined search to get exactly what you want. You can switch it to Landsat 8 and 9. And like I said, it depends on what data set you're downloading with the options that vary. And if you have no additional criteria or any needs like that, you don't have to input anything. So once you've looked through all of that, if you would like, we can go to results. And this is gonna start pulling up our scenes. So as you can see, this has our Landsat 8 and 9 data set. And we'll pull down our result controls. So the result controls drop-down menu gives us a lot of options. If you want to show all footprints on the current page, you can also show all browse previews from the current page. And you can add all results from the current page to your bulk downloads. So the 10 that are being displayed on the page, you can scroll up and see it reflected in the item basket. The select all for the footprint and browse is a great way if you have a larger geographic area that covers more area. You can see exactly what scenes you'll be getting from there. You can also individually toggle your footprint and browse. And if you click on that piece of paper with the pen, you can pull up some metadata. It does take a second to load, but this is a great way to see all the information on each individual scene. So as that loads up, you can scroll down and see all of the metadata without having to open up the file. Just another way to make sure you're getting the data that you want. And you can even preview the different browse views. So you have your reflective, thermal, and natural. There is the download options. If you're going to download an individual scene, you can individually add items to bulk download, or you can exclude the scene from your results. So as you scroll down, you can see the various scenes. We'll hop over to our NAPE data set, which we clicked the box to add to bulk download. Here we have a footprint preview. And if you're wanting to toggle between data sets, you just use that drop-down menu. So now we're ready to go ahead and start our bulk download. We'll hit the item basket, and we'll go ahead and start our order. It takes a second to load, but now you'll see the scenes pending selection. It'll also give you the option now to name your bulk download. You don't have to necessarily name it, but if you don't, it will randomly generate a name for you. And we're going to drop down that pending scene selection and preview the scenes that we put in our cart. Takes a second to load. Perfect. And now that you can see with each scene what you're getting in a whole download, or if you would like to pick and choose parts of the scene, you can do that individually or go down to your product selections. As you can see, we'll go ahead and select full resolution browse, select products, and by doing it that way, you don't have to individually select potential browsers that you want to download individually if you don't want to download the whole scene. And you can scroll through and verify that that it did select all of our full browse natural quality, or excuse me, natural color. And we'll go ahead and submit our product and submit order. So we'll wait for that to submit. Perfect. And now you'll get the order and whatever you named it submitted. You'll also get an email confirming that your BDWA order was submitted. It gives you the link and an order tracking link as well. So when you're ready, you can click through to this link to the bulk downloading web application. And when you're ready to launch the application, click the big green button. So it will launch the application. We'll give it a second to pull up our order. Perfect. So our order ID is in there. And when you're ready to download, go ahead and open order with that blue folder button. It's going to ask you where you'd like your data and scenes to be saved, and give it permission to view and save those files onto your computer. You can use that cog to download now or remove it. If you'd like to go back to your other orders, hit view orders, but everything looks good for us. So we're going to go ahead and begin that download. So on the bottom, you can see the order ID name, the file in which it's being saved, how much data you have left, and if there are any errors. Errors would be downloads that didn't complete. And if you go to that settings tab, you can go ahead and change your retry frequency. So if something didn't download correctly after everything else downloaded, you set the time in which it will try and download again. Alrighty, so once you wait for your order to download, you'll have that in the file where you selected it, and it will be in a zipped file, which you will have to extract to use the data however you'd like. So next, we're going to move on to importing a CSV file. This feature is really great for downloading data of the same area over a long time span. This is also great for downloading data of large geographic regions. And now you can download up to 20,000 scenes with a single imported CSV file. The perk of this is it's much faster than adding individual scenes from the data sets manually, either by adding each one from results or clicking that little box for every single scene you want. If you want a lot, this is a great feature to just download it all. Each CSV file, though, that is uploaded will have to be of the same data set. Perfect. So we're going to go on to our tutorial on how to export that CSV feature on Earth Explorer. So since we're going to be doing a larger geographic region, we're going to do South Dakota just to better show off the tool and download more scenes. So we've selected our area. We'll go ahead and select a date range again. And you can select that for as long as the data set has been collecting data. So now that we have that, if you'd like to choose months, you still have that option. We're going to move on to selecting our data set. So as mentioned, we'll only be selecting one data set for this feature to work. And we'll go back to Landsat Collection 2, Level 1, Landsat 8 and 9 again. We won't need any additional criteria, so we'll just go over to Results. Here you can click to export your results on that box with the reach out arrow. You can name your export file. And now we're going to change our format from KMZ to CSV. Go ahead and create your export. And now it's submitted for processing. We'll go ahead and open the export status page. And it usually doesn't take too long to receive your export. It just depends on the load of the system. So now that our download is ready, we'll go ahead and download that. Now that it's downloaded, we'll go ahead and open. This is a zipped file, so we'll have to extract it. We'll go ahead and extract and choose where we want to save our data. This file we're just going to put on the desktop for the ease of this tutorial. And when we're ready, we'll hit extract. Make sure that we downloaded it. It's in this Microsoft Excel. And now that I see that I have that downloaded and it's extracted, I'll click out of that. And we will head over and start the import. So click on your profile tab. It is that little person with a cog. And on your left-hand side, you'll go ahead and you'll see all of these options. We will select the last option, which is the scene list. And with that, you can see there's a lot of file upload options. We are going to be selecting the metadata CSV export. Here we have to select our data set first. Make sure that you have the correct data set selected, as especially with Landsat, there's multiple different collections and levels. So we downloaded collection 2 level 1 data. You can name your file list name. And go ahead and choose the file that we just downloaded. Awesome. So we'll grab that from our desktop. There is a manual input feature. I would recommend just importing the CSV file. It prevents any typos or any accidents from copy and pasting. So now we're on our scene list, and we'll manage our scene list just like we did with the bulk download from Earth Explorer. So we went ahead, we opened that drop down. You can do that product selection again if you just want a simple browse. This time we'll select natural color for all of these, just so it'll download faster. And now we'll go ahead and name our bulk order. As mentioned earlier, you don't have to name it. It'll just give you a randomly generated name if you choose not to. And we're ready to submit. So we'll wait for that to submit. And now we've got a confirmation that it's submitted. You can go to the tracking page, or you can just hop over to the bulk download web application. So this works the exact same way as the tutorial before. You can see all of the data, the name, and then we'll go ahead and open our order. You can preview to make sure everything looks right and select where you'd like your data to be downloaded to. Give it the permission to view files and save changes. And when you're ready, go ahead and click Begin Download. Let's move on to the tips. So, download availability does depend on the source of the data and the current load of the distribution systems. If you're seeing slow download times, download only the bands you need from the Landsat data. Your download speeds do vary based on your internet speeds. And go ahead and check out the bulk download web application FAQ if you have any questions. So we'll go over and we'll watch this. So there's a lot of ways you can submit feedback. Most of our applications have this nice feedback tab, and then they also have the help tab. So on Earth Explorer, go ahead and click the help tab, and that will actually give you the bulk download tutorial. We have a video coming soon, so check out the USGS YouTube page for that. And then we have some help documentation. So if you do better reading through and want to written down step by step, you can go ahead and download this PDF. And it also gives you some troubleshooting with common issues. Now, if you see that your question or troubleshooting issue that you have isn't on here, we'll end up moving over to the feedback tab, or you'll be given our contact information at the end where you can go ahead and reach out to us. So you can open that feedback tab here, or go ahead and open the feedback on the bulk download. It'll ask for your name, your email, and if you would like to select the application you're having issues with, you can go ahead and do that. And you can type in your question, comment, concern, and go ahead and submit that. And that will be put into our email and we will reply back to you there. Alrighty, so as we wrap things up, we're going to give you some contact information. You're welcome to email us at our custserve@usgs.gov. You can give us a call at these 2 phone numbers. And if it's out of our office hours, you can leave us a voicemail. We have feedback on the bulk download that was just shown in that previous tutorial. And if you would like, you can join our EROS user group EUG listserv. Just send us an email at that custserve saying that you would like to join, and you'll get updates on things. So that's all I have for you. I believe I'm going to pass it on to Danielle, and we'll get into those question and answers for you.
All right, thank you for a great presentation, Abby. At this time, we'll now move on to the final polling questions portion of the webinar. You should see the polling questions now on your screen. Let me launch it real quick. I know some people on the webinar chat mentioned that they weren't able to see this. I think that might be based on settings for your specific employer. So I'll also go ahead and post the questions in the chat. So if you'd like to answer them there, you are more than welcome to answer them there as well. And we'll kind of compile those answers at the end. So we will take a few moments to answer those polling questions. If you do have any final questions or feedback about the BDWA, perhaps features that you would like to see in the future, please feel free to add those to the chat now as well. And just a reminder, if you have any webinars that you would like to see in the future, please add those topics to the chat as well, and we'll see if we can conduct one of those in the future. With that, we'll give you a few moments to answer the polling questions. All right, and it looks like we have a couple of polling answers coming in. So at this point, we'll transition over to answering the questions. Don't forget, if you do have any additional questions later, you can always contact the user services. But at this point, we'll move on to our questions. So it looks like the first question that we have came in, and it is, do you have the scans of older analog NAPE or NAHP images available through this interface? And I can go ahead and answer that question as well. The medium resolution NAAP or NAP or NAHAP datasets are available to download via the BDWA. Not all data that is available on EE is available in the BDWA. If you have a tool that requires an additional login, for example, NASA's URS login, those datasets won't be available in the BDWA. But you should be able to look at a dataset in Earth Explorer, and if it has an icon that looks like a little cardboard box to it, next to it, that means that it will be available in the BDWA. The next question we have is how to add all of the results from all pages to the bulk download at once. And Abby did provide kind of an example of showing adding that CSV feature in Earth Explorer to import the data into the BDWA. Currently, this is not an option in Earth Explorer, but you can increase the number of results per page using the results option on the search criteria tab within Earth Explorer. You can also add all the results from the current page that you're looking at to your bulk download order by clicking on Show Results Control. Another question we had that came in was for the bulk downloader, if you receive a status equals fail in your list of bundles, do we recommend exiting out of the GUI and restarting the download on the bundles? I believe Abby did kind of address this. But just to clarify, the application will retry any failed downloads if you set the retry frequency in that setting. The default value is about 10 minutes, which means it'll retry failed downloads about 10 minutes after other downloads are finished. If the downloads are failing repeatedly, you can select Stop Downloads and then exit the BDWA and retry a little while later. And then if they're still failing after that, you can always contact our user services team using that custserve@usgs.gov email. And that'll help us kind of look into your order. And you can just provide your ERS login account username and also the order ID for your bulk order. So if you are still having trouble after trying 10 minutes, and if it is just continuously failing, even after you exit and re-enter in, feel free to reach out to our team. So we had another question from Francisco. Before exporting and saving the CSV, is it possible to indicate that the scenes contain only a low percentage of clouds? For example, select only those with a percentage lower than 10% and discard the others in the list of the CSV file.
Yeah,
And
I'll take that. So,
Sure.
with that, it's just you would on Earth Explorer toggle your cloud coverage as if you were going to manually add them because it's exporting the results. So make sure before you go to your results page on that first search page that you do toggle your cloud cover. And then in the results, it'll only pull what meets that criteria. So that will only show up in your CSV file.
Right. Let's see, looking to see if we have any more questions that came in. We did get some feedback from Patrick for our developer teams that would be useful for his team's purposes if there was an option to select for CONUS or continental or conterminous United States. Those terms aren't found if you type into the search. So that is great feedback. Thank you, Patrick. We'll pass that along to our developer teams, some of which are on the call right now. Perfect. I'm glad that the answer is helpful, Francisco. Any other questions that anyone has or any other feedback? All right, not seeing any other feedback or questions in the chat. It looks like that's all the questions we had for the day. So don't forget, if you do have additional questions later on about the BDWA or any data, tools, or services that EROS provides, you can always email them to our team, customer@usgs.gov. If you'd like to join us for our future webinar event, in a couple of months, we'll be talking about Landsat data. And if you'd like to be notified about that or any other upcoming webinars, please feel free to sign up for that EROS user group, again, by emailing that customer@USGS email address. And with that, we thank you all for joining us today. I'll stick around for a few more minutes in case any other questions come in. But again, thank you all for joining us today.
Hi, Vanessa. So there's a couple different ways that a bulk download could fail. Usually it'll fail, like it won't. Usually it is not the case that it fails when it is partway through a download. Usually what will happen is it will complete a file download, and then as it continues the next one, it might fail. And so whatever you have downloaded, it will go into your folder. However, there are some edge cases where that might happen. Looking for a response from one of our other or from one of the engineers that would be responsible for that might have more detail on that. So what I'm seeing from them is as you download, it should show as a part of a file. So as you look at the downloads, it'll show .tar.part. And the system should be smart enough to pick up where you left off. But if it's getting confused, you'll need to delete the part file and then retry that download.
Excellent. Thanks, Jacob. Any other questions before we call it? All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. Have a nice afternoon.